Isaiah B. Combo's Wrestling Edition. Yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome to the most must-see wrestling review and live reaction channel podcast channel. No, podcast channel. Podcast channel. Here we go. I flipped it. Podcast channel and all the land. Welcome to A and B Combos
The Wrestling Edition podcast.
I know it's been a minute. We're both messing up here.
But we are wrestling oh, you're right. Podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a podcast.
We're new to this.
We're literally in the same room sitting side by side. I mean, can't see it hit it together, but it's a Saturday and we are here regardless. With us as always is our brethren from another mother. And if you don't know, now you know. I'm talking about Stephen Sandry of Marked by Wrestling.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Happy to talk for whatever we're talking about today. Let's rip open this can of worms and get into it.
Happy. Okay. So, good morning. Good Saturday morning, actually, even though most people will be hearing this on a Tuesday.
Yes.
So we've had a lot of interesting things happening in wrestling since we last spoke. But I would say that one of the most interesting and controversial things is, in fact, the Goldberg retirement match, which came at the expense of Jey Uso losing his title so that Gunther could put the title on the line against someone who doesn't go here, who's retiring, but you retired like 20 years ago. So the match was much better than we anticipated. And I think it was, as I think Marked by Wrestling, I thought it was the longest match he ever had. Marked by Wrestling, our coalition partner, said that it was the second longest match that he's ever had. And actually, I thought the match was so good, surprisingly, because his match against Roman was not good, against Bobby was not good, that we won't even bring up that Undertaker match, because that, that I actually was rooting for him and thought he might win, and then was like rooting for him to win at the end. So now he's done interviews and he is complaining that he had a nationally televised 15-minute match against the world champion for the world championship because it still wasn't good enough. He also was complaining that they cut him off, which is legit. I know you see a countdown because we bid our shows. They count you down and tell you what's going out. But on Peacock, that shouldn't have, that's not television that has other programming that's about to cut it off. But so we did at the time was like, dang, just cut him off. But also he blocked his son from signing it's the NIL, right? Contract. Is that what it's called? Marked by Wrestling? Yeah. Because he didn't think they were offering him enough money. Mind you, all you've done is be born to Gunther. He was beat up by Bobby Lashley, but I don't know what he's done to deserve an offer other than being of his lineage. I mean, if you're saying when you're done with what your sport is, you're going to have an open door here, which is a huge deal. Do you know how many people would want that? And you're getting that just because you're his son. He doesn't even really go here. I mean, did he not like quit as soon as he got to WWE? Somebody help me out. So what am I missing?
Stephen, the floor is yours.
Okay. Let me just start off in case I get out of hand and we just need to like move on. Just the as they say on the internet, the too long didn't read version of what I'm about to say. is Shut Up Goldberg.
That's the long version.
That's no, that's the Cliff Notes. That's the short.
Okay.
That's the Goldberg match version of what I'm about to say.
Oh.
Yeah. I from the get was saying we don't need a Goldberg retirement match. I think listen, and this is somebody I'm speaking to somebody, I am you guys as wrestling historian. I've been a fan of wrestling for close to 40 years now. I rode with Goldberg during the Monday Night Wars. I remember him being a nobody on TV before they decided to make him a somebody. I remember his WCW run. I remember his one world title reign in WCW that lasted about 6 to 8 months tops. That he never held again before WCW went out of business. His second week title reign in the middle of the Triple H reign of terror in like 02, 03 or whatever when he came to WWE. His sort of resurgence in that brief feud with Brock Lesnar, which was the second best thing he ever did in his career. He's only done two great noteworthy things in his career. One was the streak in WCW. One was that little span with Brock Lesnar, which shut my mouth. I wasn't asking for Goldberg to come back then either, but whatever they did, for all the evils of Vince McMahon, they booked Goldberg perfectly in that span. And redeemed the hot trash mess that Goldberg and Lesnar had at WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden. And that should have been enough, but it wasn't. And this just comes down to the fact that I think Goldberg severely over-evaluates his importance in wrestling history. He's just not that important. And listen to me. I'm a WCW guy. I was rooting for Nitro pretty much until Russo got there. And so it's not me being like, because you see all the WWE memorabilia behind me, it's like WWE wins against the company, so they rewrite the history, and none of the WCW guys are actually that important, which is something WWE does to people. That's true. They did Sting wrong that way.
Yes.
But they're right about Goldberg. As far as so I don't think Goldberg deserved the match in the first place. Honestly, I think it would have made for a more compelling match if it wasn't for the title, because then you really could have had, our mantra here is being a mark means you believe, believing makes wrestling better. You had a better chance to believe that Goldberg would win that match if there wasn't a title on the line. Because all you would know is that it's his retirement match, and there's a hint of like, well, surely they're not going to put the title on him, like not while Cena is holding the other title and doing this whole I'm going to leave with the title stuff, So anyway, that's a thing. The promo, I have a mild bit of sympathy for him being cut off, but first of all, it's NBC. The resounding complaint about Saturday night's main event that I try to engage with people about when we talk about Saturday night's main event, but I understand fans being frustrated by it regardless of the reality of life, is all the ads, right? For every Saturday night's main event. So many commercial interruptions. It is network television. You can't expect to get all the time you want in a retirement speech. And also, though, it's 2025. So I do think, like, I don't know why they couldn't have kept the cameras rolling on Peacock and done that. But at the same time, it's 2025. So you know what? That entire speech was uploaded on all the social media channels within 24 hours. You know what's never been uploaded is Ric Flair's Hall of Fame induction speech unedited, which went for over an hour that I was there in person for, and they cut it down to 25 to 30 minutes for TV. And even then, Triple H, who said it was one of his worst feelings in working for WWE, had to be the one that was told to go out and tell him to wrap it up. Because that was a man, Ric Flair is a man who, we all the stuff that makes us feel icky about Ric Flair, sure. But we're talking about the gimmick, the character, the importance to wrestling is a man who at that time had given over 30 years to the business. And he gave more after that, even though maybe we didn't ask for it, but that's another conversation. And uh Goldberg's cumulative time that he gave to wrestling is like 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, my math isn't super great on that, but by comparison, it's less than a decade. And so I heard his little griping interview about they wouldn't have done that to John Cena or they wouldn't have done that to The Undertaker. Yeah, bro, you're not John Cena.
John Cena.
You're not John Cena. You're not The Undertaker. And I have my criticisms of John Cena too, but John Cena has actually given of himself for 20 years to the business. The Undertaker, are you kidding me? Who debuted in 1990 and is still out here mentoring
Right.
younger wrestlers and stuff, and he's coming to show up on NXT on this Tuesday, like in Houston. So like he's never ever been too good for the business, and neither is Cena. I don't think Cena's ever been too good for the business, but he's trying to do something for himself, and Peacemaker's pretty cool. So whatever. But he's also put in his time. The old timers say you paid your dues. All that stuff, and so. Yeah, and his son, I don't know the young man, but I can tell you right now, he's not Dominic Mysterio.
Right.
He's not Randy Orton. He's not, whomever, and so he's not Braun Breaker. Like he's who also started out as an NIL kid, by the way, Braun Breaker.
Right.
So like, can we just pump the brakes on this self-inflated, sense of importance? Like, because you weren't that important in the first place. You were a right place, right time guy. And when you were the ultimate warrior, bro. Like, I mean, and listen, there was a time in history where he had the best spear in the business. And I'll give him credit. He was humble enough to say that Braun Breaker does the best spear in the business now. Which I agree with personally, but nevertheless, he's yeah, like, dude, shut up, Goldberg. Like, you got your deal, and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. Stop crying. You're not looking any better. And it's so easy when WWE is like the big industry leading company to like take your little shots at it when you don't get what you want, because they're not going to do anything to you like that, because they don't care, because they don't think about you. They're not going to think about you no more. They're back to business. And so, but like, dude, Goldberg, whatever. I'm not hopping on your train, dude. Like, thank you.
He's even a wrestling fan.
No, that's the thing, is that he doesn't even seem like he likes wrestling. Like
he didn't raise his kids to. His kid didn't watch wrestling. He didn't raise him to be a fan of wrestling.
That's why he came back one time. Was because his kid had never seen him wrestle.
Exactly.
And like, you know what? For all the griping he does, Bret Hart, he absolutely loves and treasures professional wrestling. And that's why I tolerate his complaining, because I know he loved it and still loves it, but no, shut up, Goldberg.
And you, A?
Well, let me clear my throat on this.
Years.
All right.
Here's the situation. Whether you're in this industry 3 years or 30, all right, when you reach a certain pinnacle, a certain level that Goldberg has reached, I can understand where the ego comes into play, right? If you're somebody that's been doing what you were doing and you didn't really hit those accolades, you spend more time at catering than anything, you're not really in a position to kind of complain. It's like the entertainment industry, not sports entertainment, but regular entertainment, having been an actor and been on sets. I know what it's like to actually be one of the main characters and be just background. You're not even an extra. You're just background. Background! Come on in here and just kind of fill the room. And as a background player, you do not have the stroke to complain and have it be cared about by much of anybody. I watched an interview by Ed O'Neill the other day. It's on YouTube, talking about, I guess he and Amanda Beers had some kind of I'm going to talk about the original Married with Children TV show, way back in the 90s. And I guess he and her had a beef, and they would get into it. And he actually said that I have the card, I have the power, essentially. I'm paraphrasing here, but he's saying, I have the ability to say, hey, I can't work with her. She's got to go. You don't. And he said that was mean, but it was true. And whatever their relationship was at the time, he decided to pull that mean card. And I get it, because you have the ego and the ability to do that. So there are some people, like you said, like a John Cena, like a Undertaker, like a Shawn Michaels, a Triple H. There are just some guys that reach that level that can do that. Shawn Michaels said he didn't like a script that Vince McMahon wanted him to say. He said he wasn't going to say it. He took it, crumpled it, threw it at Vince McMahon's chest, and walked away. Who in the world would you think would ever have the testicular fortitude to actually do that and get away with it? There are some people that can't. Goldberg just happened to be one of those guys. Like you said, it was right time, right place kind of a situation. And during that period, he was hot. There's no doubt about it. The Monday Night Wars was a very real, just, you were in the thick of it in pro wrestling. And he had some stroke. So I understand why now the mythos, if you will, of Goldberg has carried throughout the years. They package it in such a way, and this is the beauty of professional sports entertainment, is that you can package somebody in such a way, and they have such an interesting character that it carries through decades. Look at Macho Man Randy Savage. He was in the WWE. What are we talking about? 5 years? Mark my wrestling?
When he was in there
his
for
actual wrestling run.
His actual wrestling time in the WWF was probably about 8 years.
8 years. Okay. That's a good stretch of time, but it's not even a decade. It's not even like I've been in this business for 40 years. No, you've been associated with the business because you did had a wrestling stint in the WCW, and you can do a cumulative. But the reality is, and what I'm ultimately trying to say, is that you have people with an ego when they reach a certain strata in professional wrestling. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a man who really hasn't actively wrestled in years, who is living off of the legend that was Goldberg. And you see it every single time he did come out. This last time, I love to see the old timers with him, some of the original security guys that were with him 20, 30 years ago. You had
shout out to Dillinger
come out with him. I did not expect that. And it's his shtick. He comes out, they bang on the door. It's what he did. And it worked. But that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about a man that has a bit of an ego. Professional wrestling, it's hard for some people to let it go. It's hard to say, you know what, this is it. We saw with Shawn Michaels, he retired. He was done. And yet he still had one more match, even when he said he was done. Ric Flair retired by Shawn Michaels. You had The Undertaker give him the nod, and yet he still could not lace him up. It's an ego thing. So when I see him complaining, I get on one hand why he's complaining, but on the other hand, you got to look at the bigger picture, my man. And you got to say to yourself, at your advanced years, having a match with somebody who is, I don't know, what is it? His 30s? Yeah. Who's a world champion on something called Saturday Night's Main Event on network. Think about it. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Why can't I think about it?
It's Greg.
Why can't I? We froze for a second there.
Okay.
We dipped out. Um, why then would you complain about your speech getting cut a few minutes too early? And I get it, as somebody who has given speeches, as somebody that's given sermons and messages, no one wants their verbiage unceremoniously cut early. Like right now, like, wait, what? We just got cut? I get it. Like, you've seen award shows and they start playing the music and they're like, wrap it up. I get it. But at the same time, you got to take a few minutes to really look at the bigger picture, the overall perspective, and say to yourself, I had a hell of a match. This is the way I'm going out, and end it. But like Becky said, on NBC, it is what it is. Network television, it's a very regimented time schedule. On Peacock, not so much. So I will say, and end it there, to his credit, Peacock could have and should have let that speech ride out until the end, because they do not have that time block that NBC network television does. I will leave it there.
Okay. So I think he got more than enough time on our show as well. So let's move on to women's evolution. Now, I don't actually remember that much about the first one other than it was not that successful, because the second one was how many years later? Just saying. But this one I can speak to, highly entertaining, better than both nights of WrestleMania. Most people that we spoke to or in our chats felt the same way. There's a very small percentage of people who just hate on the women in general, are just kind of over it. But the most people really enjoyed the expertise, the grit. They put their heart, soul, bodies, all of that into that. And leading to Rhea and Io, who had what, like the second best match in the last one they were both into. And Naomi coming out to cash in, and her moment was so amazing. I mean, she was so hyped. She didn't even hear the ring bell and made that ring it again. She was just in her own world, and she wrecked shop. And I'm so happy that they gave it to her. Now, I don't know if that was the original plan. There's a few of us that think when Seth got hurt, that I think he was supposed to cash in. And when that got messed up, I think the next night they had her cash in because they were planning for a cash in. But it doesn't even matter to me. I'm just so happy that she got that. And then in her post uh, press speech, she does this thing where she gets emotional about, how people are looking at her, what people are saying to her, what it means to her. And then it stops, sucks it up. But it don't matter. I love it. Yes. I mean, her kayfabe is just mwah. And I really don't want this to be a short run. I don't want this to be a short run to go to Jade. Jade does not deserve that title. She doesn't deserve the title because you're Goldberging her. Naomi, this character development, the time she's put in, how hot she is, they should not take that from her prematurely. So last time we had Stephen go, so why don't you go first?
Well, let me break it down to you like this. Thank you very much.
Damn.
The first Evolution event took place in 2018.
Mm.
Okay, so it's hard to believe 7 years prior. In 2019, Stephanie McMahon had said, "I'm hopeful to have an announcement of an Evolution 2, but there is nothing official to announce just yet," which is kind of wild. Report in Sports Kita in 2020 stated that a second Evolution event was seen as a no-brainer. And at a 2021 NXT TakeOver, Triple H was questioned about it, and he said, "It's possible, but it's not a must-have at the moment." So I say all this to say, we've said many, many times on our show that we are proponents of the women's division. Like Al Pacino said, "I'm a fan of women." Okay.
I wish I had the voice to echo that for you.
Well, essentially, it's 2025. I'm glad that they had an all-female event again that absolutely killed it. That tore the house down. Fantastic matches all across the board. But it's 2025, like I said, and I can't speak for. I don't want to blanket women's wrestling overall. There are a lot of promotions. And so I'm going to hone in specifically on WWE and simply say that more often than not, what has traditionally happened is the women will get the short end of the stick. Their matches would traditionally get cut if other male matches went long. The whole point of having an all-women's PLE, it started way back with the Bellas in that 2-minute match. Hashtag give divas a chance. It was a thing. And the thing that I don't like is people trying to gaslight and have us forget about history. The reason that we have BET today is because Black artists were not getting their due on MTV. That's undisputed fact. You talk about Michael Jackson today, one of the most famous artists to have ever existed. At one point in his Thriller career, MTV did not want to play his videos. And you actually had a studio that said, "You don't play him, you don't get any of our artists." They had to threaten him in order to make that happen. So what I'm basically saying is, like, we just came out of COVID, out of necessity, out of necessity comes change. We saw a need and a void that needed to be filled. We saw women's wrestling not getting their due, and there was something that had to be done about that. I hate to see the women constantly fight to get the leftovers, to get the scraps. There was a joke on the show The Office where Dwight was talking about basketball, NBA, WNBA. He says, "One's a sport, one's a joke. I love sports. I love jokes. Room for all." And it was funny, but it was also true in that the women's side of sports, for the most part, does not get the due that the men's. And that sucks. It was Stephanie McMahon who told the divas on Total Divas, as of now, you are no longer divas. You are WWE superstars right here with the men. And yet you have women's tag team titles that were being defended across all three brands. NXT righted that wrong eventually and got NXT women's tag team titles. So those women did not have to go Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and NXT. And what happens? You combine the titles, you have a title match, you throw the NXT women's tag team titles in the trash.
In the garbage.
Like Medusa. Never to be seen by the light of day again. And every time we go live, we put our ticker, we say, bring back the NXT women's tag team titles. Because if you are in fact saying that we are about the women, we're pouring into the women's division, then there's no reason that the women on NXT should not have their own tag team titles. If the men do, then the women should. That's just reality. And the women's division in NXT runs deeper than both the main rosters.
Absolutely.
You cannot dispute this.
Mm-mm.
Yet they do not have their own set of tag team titles back. So, yes, I will say there is still a need for an all women's PLE because the women are still not on par with the men. I'm not saying the women draw the same way as the men. I get that. I'm not blind to that fact. But the reality is you got some banger women. And we just saw when you take the handcuffs off of these women and you let them cook. Sorry, one of our channel mascots is something. When you take the handcuffs off these women and you let them cook, they show up and show out every single time. So I'm not trying to hear that this is something that we still don't need. Even in our own chat, people are like, well, I wasn't interested in the women's matches. I'm like, why?
There's only a few of those.
Yeah, there are, but there's people who are still saying this. And so if anybody shouldn't be saying this, it's a WWE brass. And there's no reason that these women who you said are superstars should be treated less than. That's all I got to say about Violet.
Steven?
Yeah, so Evolution, full cards on the table. If you can tell by my voice, I've been battling a cold for about a week. I was pretty heavily medicated when I watched Evolution, so so my perspective may not be fully there, but I will say this, just some of the logistics even of the show. One, all the women fellas wrestled like they had something to prove, which is great. It was not a 5-match PLE; it was a 7-match PLE. Which I think is better. Coming off of the never-ending commercial fest that was Saturday night's main event the night before, Evolution was such a palate cleanser because it was a common PLE, and that all you really had were promos for future WWE shows or whatever, and no true ad breaks. And you had 2 more matches, and you had talent from all 3 brands there. So it was a really, and every match felt special too. So I think special is the word that I just keep coming back to with it for different iterations of what that word means. And so in that regard, there's a couple of things I'd like to see going forward from Evolution. First of all, I don't know if Seth's injury, which I'm not going to go so far like some of the other YouTubers and social media commentators to use the word work on Seth's injury, but I do find it puzzling that we're a week away, removed from that incident now, and there's still no actual prognosis on what is actually wrong with him. They have not said that plainly, and usually you get that stuff within 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah,
with WWE's people. I do believe he at the smallest had a scare in that match, and they were like, okay, just safest mode possible in the match. Let's pull you, and I don't know, maybe he was going to show up and at the end of the night and cash in or something. I don't know, but anyway, this topic's not about Seth. But all that to say, maybe Naomi's decision was a pivot, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I think pulling the trigger on Naomi then ended up being a really brilliant booking decision in hindsight. One, I know it's so important about WWE to be the center of the conversation, and I know they were competing with AEW that weekend too, and that moment did that for them. So from a PR standpoint, great job. Making Naomi the centerpiece of Evolution at the end of the night is a big communication to the crowd of the faith they have in her and the work that she's been doing in her character, which is awesome. Also, Rhea has never beaten Io, which is a story they can continue to tell.
Yeah.
And Io was protected in that loss. Who,
Mhm.
while there may be legitimate criticisms of the fact that she really never got a solid title defense other than WrestleMania, which was my favorite, is still my favorite women's match of the year. Even that does not take anything away from Evolution. Evolution was an amazing card. But
Mhm.
um, all of that to say, it feels like whoever's booking the women right there, at least in that particular circle, is trying to take care of all three of those performers in a certain way. And then yeah, Naomi's still doing her thing, which is awesome. Also, it moves Naomi away from Jade because Jade as Queen of the Ring has Tiffany now. I had no idea what that's gonna look like, but it makes me happier for Naomi that she doesn't have to deal with that at this point right now.
Yeah.
There's a chance we could see Jade versus Naomi in Australia though, if they're doing that champion versus champion thing
Mhm.
at Crown Jewel like they did last year in Saudi Arabia. But anyway, so about Evolution itself, some things I'd like to see going forward. I do think I want to see more evolutions, but I don't want them to be annual though. I think there needs to be a little bit of space to one, give us room for fresh matchups, because one thing I don't want Evolution to turn into is like the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view or the TLC PLE, where it's like, oh, it's Evolution time, and there's no extra, spice going into that show. And there's no extra anticipation going into that show, and you're just getting a match you probably would have seen on SmackDown. And
Mhm.
so I want it to still feel special, and I think rarity will contribute to that. So at a minimum, every other year at least. And while they still have this working arrangement, I think 7 might be a good sweet spot for matches more than 5 every time until Raw and SmackDown start getting booked like NXT, where it's truly like a 50-50 equity between the men's division and the women's division.
Very much.
And which they're not there, but Raw, hello, the Raw after Evolution, the whole first half of the show
Was
was all
women.
ladies.
Ladies.
And I don't think I didn't notice that. Yeah, and I'm like, I thought that was awesome. And so the last thing I was going to say is I'd like to see them take more advantage of their partnerships with TNA and their ownership of AAA. Like, I think they could use future evolutions to bring back the Iconics, or to bring, the
Mhm.
Knockouts champion, bring in some of these ladies from AAA like they did at Worlds Collide, and stuff. And, they don't necessarily have to have their own match, but you could have that as like, almost like a Worlds Collide. You could have an
Mhm.
NXT versus TNA person, or a SmackDown versus TNA, if you want to elevate TNA a little bit more. You could have a AAA versus NXT match, that kind of stuff, or even pair them together if you want to,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So just, I like that they really made room for everybody. I just, my personal preference, because there's so much depth of talent on the women's roster these days, I'm glad they leaned more on the women they have rather than calling back women of old. Um, sorry, when I say old, I don't mean old women, but like from previous generations. I don't mean it like that. So I like having them ringside and then showing little video packages. Honestly, I think is tasteful and respectful. Like, I don't. I will always have a fondness for Miss Jacqueline and for Ivory, or Molly Holly, but like, I don't need them to be in the battle royal. Like, let me cheer for them and let me get their actual, because when you take Molly Holly and put her ringside and give her a 15-second video package, she's getting more attention on herself as an individual than she's ever going to get in a 20-woman battle royal where she gets dumped and you don't even notice. So like, it's a trade-off, but I think there is respect given that way. And maybe, and thankfully there really aren't a whole lot of Goldberg sized egos in the women's locker rooms, so maybe they'd be cool with that. I know Kelly wasn't super happy with that trade-off, but you know what, if that meant we got to see Jazz instead, bye Kelly. You were kind of the Goldberg of your division, so whatever.
We were saying.
I'm
Just saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there, quite frankly. Um, I will say this much though. I do not want there to be another 7-year gap between
Yeah,
the
no,
two,
7's too long. Too
you
long.
know. I think that's not
Mhm.
necessary, but I agree absolutely. You gotta you bought promotions, you were a part of
Right.
promotion. There's no reason that we do not have more
Mhm.
of that. You can figure it out. I mean, WWE's been in existence too long. I've said this many times. You've got too much money. Your pockets are deep.
Mhm.
You've got the creative. Make it have the cabinet.
Yeah.
It's real simple.
We should have seen the Iconics. We should have seen Alicia Fox. We should have seen, people who are still intertwined with TNA. And it is true that Triple A's women are really talented and fun to watch. And so with 7 matches, I understand you're trying to fit all 3 brands in there, but you have 2 other brands now that you're associated with. So there is like a certain level, and actually they're associated with a Japanese brand too, right?
Well,
Because they've had some
no.
Japanese wrestlers come and wrestle in NXT.
Pro Wrestling Noah, Inamura is from there.
Yeah.
Who just wrestled Obafemi at Great American Bash. So they have some, and they sent Shinsuke Nakamura there a couple times
Yeah, right.
too. So they have some kind of friendly partnership. That's the Great Muta's
Yeah.
territory.
So even if they were to do it annually, I understand the purpose of doing it every other year, but they have enough talent between 5 different association, like, brands that I think they could mix it up and make it kind of fresh. Um, almost like the women's WrestleMania.
But let me say this real quick. Something else that kind of
Well, throw this into your closing remarks because we're already at closing remarks. So
you gonna say your closing?
no, go ahead.
Okay. So let me just say this real quick. When it comes to the women, you know what? Just talent in general, but it's really especially with the women. We saw LFG. There's a thing right now. You've got these new, young, talented wrestlers coming up, trying to take everybody's spot. You've got some people like Bailey, or Natalia, who've been around for a while, who are not getting featured in the way that they used to. Even though we obviously just saw Bailey with Lyra and Becky and whatnot, but you know what I'm saying. So it's something that I'm thinking we have WWE do these releases to make room, and not only in the budget, but to make room for other up and coming talent. And that's something else that I don't know how that would work, and I wish there would be a better balance with it to where there's room for all. Bring back house shows, bring back I don't think AEW does their AEW dark YouTube shows anymore, if I'm not mistaken. So, utilize that. You have WWE has a show on Tubi. They have a show on X. They got a show on Peacock. They spread themselves out. And so what I'm basically saying is figure out a way to utilize other avenues to get this talent out here. Bring back the house shows. Let's get dark matches that are only YouTube exclusives that everybody can watch. I'm just saying, man, I feel like their focus is slightly skewed when it comes to these things, and if they just reassessed and reconfigured her little cat over here at that view, and reconfigured the way that they look at talent, you wouldn't necessarily have to release as many as you would if it was just a budgetary thing. I get it, but it was like, you know what, you're not drawing. Like, yeah, one of the most popular superstars in R-Truth, and the people revolted and they brought him back. I just feel like they could still do better. And I don't quite know why they don't. And that for me, it's still just a little frustrating. Hey, closing. Steve?
Well, I'll give them credit at least for Natalia, because Natalia has gone down to Evolve, and she's worked with like their champion very recently. So she's a veteran there who seems to work very humbly. Like she's taking, I think she's fully embracing her sort of coaching role, like they, pair her up with Maxine on the main roster. And then yeah, she hasn't shown up in NXT for a while, but yeah, she drops all the way down to Evolve and starts a program with one of their, their champions and stuff and puts them over and stuff. So I think she's doing well. I do wonder about Bailey specifically because I just don't think with the rate of, no pun intended, with the rate of evolution in women's wrestling and all the ladies who are getting ready to come up, I don't know how many pushes are left for Bailey. And it's not because she's doing anything wrong either. Like, it's not like she's lost a step in the ring or in a promo. Like, she might be one, maybe the only one on that roster who could get some upside from going to work for Tony Khan. If for nothing, because I am 100% positive Mercedes Moné would absolutely make it a priority to make sure she's taken care of and respected if she goes over. And so I don't know if that would be worth it or not because, well, we won't talk about that promotion, but it's a risk. But yeah, I don't know. And that is the other edge of the sword with women's wrestling being so great now is the people that got us there to be great are now having to, like, Rocky 3, Eye of the Tiger, like you're going to have to find your edge to stay where you are. And so let me say this because I haven't done it. Oh no, fight off the cough, Steven. All right. But I'm almost done. Is give credit where credit is due. Charlotte Flair, praise the Lord, has finally found a different angle for her character. And like that's what I've been trying to say for years in my criticisms of her is like she's never been bad in the ring, but like please stop coming out and saying I am the queen. Give me a title match. I'm like, I know you can do more than that. And like this sort of like nagging contempted, like contemptuous relationship, big sister little sister relationship her and Alexa have going right now. I didn't see SmackDown last night, so I don't know to what degree that's continued, but what I saw them do at Evolution, I'm like, this is exactly what I would love to see from both of them right now in this career. It's like, and that's the kind of stuff. I saw The Sandlot on TV a couple nights ago, and it was that scene where Babe Ruth comes in and says, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. And like, and legends in wrestling, the true legends, like, even though her dad was 16-time world champion, and he was surrounded by the belt most of his career, the real best of the best wrestlers, like, sure, they win titles, but they also find ways to maintain your attention when they're not in the title picture. And they're both getting to do that now. And it just makes me so happy for them both. And it also makes me happy that the programs are actually investing time into women's stories where a title is not the main character in the story. Like we saw that last year with Bianca and Naomi and Jade and stuff. Eventually the tag titles left that story and all we were left with was story. And like, that's the stuff that you grow up remembering, is like not how many times they came out in their entrance holding the belt. It's like, what was going on? You remember Steve Austin for the beer truck and the Zamboni and and all this other stuff, not how many times he held the title. So anyway, I love seeing that women are getting the opportunity to shine in stories, whether a title's present or not. And I'm so happy that Charlotte is close to the top of that list because she deserves it.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. So just to let you know, if you didn't watch it last night, so you don't know their official name.
No, they have a name. Great. I need to update my 2K. I
my
made them a team at 2K.
favorite name of any tag team of all time.
Oh my.
They are the Alliance of Convenience. They are the Alliance.
I hope that's enough characters for me to put in the game. Okay, I just have a miss.
That it was. I thought that was so funny. We were cracking up when we saw that. And so the front, I think it says "We're not friends," and on the back it says "Alliance of Convenience."
I saw the We're At Fresh shirts. Yeah, no,
We
I love the We're
are
At Fresh.
coalition, and I hope you enjoyed
We are
our
friends.
time talking about wrestling. We love wrestling. We are fans of wrestling. We try really hard to be marks of wrestling because, as Steven says, being a mark makes wrestling better. We appreciate you coming in with us. Steven, where can they find you?
You can follow me at Mark by Wrestling on YouTube. It's been also a really fun movie summer. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at screen.stream.shelf where we talk about movies. Superman is out. Also, if I can put a brief plug, my brother, my coalition brother, AJ, and I will be having a discussion on DC comic films in the near future.
I do have some thoughts, Superman. Hey, eyes up here. I'm looking at you, Superman. What in? Hey. Okay.
Okay. Well, you can also catch us on YouTube on A and B Combos Wrestling Edition. And we will be catching you on the next show.